Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us again for our third and final installment of a three-part series titled Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, brought to you by MRPA and presented by Kimberlee Williams. Again, if you've missed the first two sessions, it'll be available on the MRPA website. And before we get started again, I'd like to cover some housekeeping information. Please keep your videos on if you're able to, and keep your microphones on mute unless Kimberlee says otherwise. Additionally, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat. All right. And if you're attending the session for CEUs, please stay with us to the end of the session, and we will provide some brief instructions on how to receive your code for today. All right. And now I would like to welcome back our hostess with the mostest, Kimberlee Williams. Quick blurb about Kimberlee again. Growing up and around communities filled with diversity of every kind, she frequent conversations, workshops, and events with where topics of equity, inclusion, and explored a great length of that in depth. Kimberlee has always sought opportunities for personal professional growth and brought the same magic to her workshops and events. She continues to bring the work to local and national organizations, as well as one-on-one sessions in her coaching practices. Again, MRPA, I just want everybody to give Kimberlee a nice little emoji round of applause and welcome her back. We are so excited. Kimberlee, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jovan. It is so good to be back with y'all today. I heard that you all are going to be reading The Sum of Us together, and you've got a book club going. I am super jealous and wish that I could join your discussions because it's such a rich book. You all will have an amazing time together, I'm sure. Well, welcome to today's final time together. And today is really, as I promised last week, about bypassing the system, right? Bypassing the way that we have all been wired, all of us, me included, we have all been wired. Today is really going to be about getting our feet wet and doing the work. All right. So I'm excited. So you'll hear a lot less of me talking to you today, and we'll be doing a lot more work. So if I'll give you a second really quickly, if you don't have something to write with or something to write on, and you can use your tablet, your phone, however you take notes. If you will go ahead and grab something so that you're prepared when it's time to write. I am just give you a second to get that together, and then we'll get moving here. Right. So, as I said before, you all remember that we, this work, I always tell people this work is about being in relationships. And because if you and I are not in relationship with one another, we can't trust one another. And if we can't trust one another, how are we ever to come together to talk about things like identity, right? And so I always say that some of your strongest relationships in your life are those that have the largest pile of random facts about you. And this is not just about sharing random facts. This is about creating moments of affinity, what we call affinity. And really what affinity means is those Me Too moments. It means that you and I share a layer of identity, which means we share common lived experiences. You understand what my life is like on a certain level because your life is that way on some level as well. So you already know I'm going to pull down my chat button here so I can see the chat. And if this sounds like you, I just want you to throw a me too in the chat. My first random fact of the day is that I love puzzles. I've figured out in the last 2 years that the only time my mind is 100% quiet is when I'm working on a puzzle. I don't know how it is, but when I'm working on a puzzle, I'm not worried about who's calling my phone, who's texting me, what is my next presentation. If I have to travel to get to a gig, I'm not worrying about which client is coming in, when is my next appointment. I'm not worrying about any of that. My mind is completely quiet. And so there is always a puzzle going on at my house. So yes, I hear something. Yes, love puzzles. Yes, me too. I will tell you, I'm a novice at this. So I've been on the 500 piece level for a long time. And people have been challenging me to step it up and do the 1,000 piece. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try. Something else I learned about myself in the last year is that people see me, or they meet me, or they interact with me, or they hear a presentation that I've given, and they're like, oh, you're such a natural. You're so extroverted. And the truth is, I come from the dance world. I spent my entire life dancing. The truth is, I'm very good at acting, and I am truly an introvert who shows up as an extrovert. People think I'm extroverted, and listen, if I could hide in my office right now, actually the blinds are down. They're never down, but if I could come in here and my blinds would be down, I would definitely leave them down. I'd be in here with a book. That is who I am. But people think, because of my stage presence, that I'm an extrovert. And I've learned in the last year and a half that I'm not. So I'm the type of person that goes on the cruise and sits on the balcony with a book the whole time. Like, Kim, did you go to the show? Did you hit the casino? Did you do? I'm like, no, but I read 4 books in a week. So that is, anybody can relate. Oh, I see it. I see somebody said, thank you. It's so good to see that somebody else relates or experience. This is me through and through. I show up as an extrovert, but I prefer downtime with like quiet. Y'all, I avoid the Beltway in the DC area because the energy of it is too much for me. So if I can get around the Beltway and not take the Beltway, I will ride the side streets. Listen, that's me. Even in my driving, I'm an introvert. Energy. Yep. Somebody said, yes. Bodies of water. It's kind of like puzzles. I go and I sit in a body of water, and it just grounds me and calms me. My brain can't think of anything else when I'm near the water. Don't ask me to get in it. Don't ask me to get in it. But as long as I'm close to it or on it, I feel such peace. I feel such peace. And my brain is like quiet, which I appreciate those moments. I see some Me Too's in the chat. So there's some people that understand what water does for me. Yes. Love the water. Well, listen, y'all, I told y'all, don't ask me to get in because it takes too long to do my hair. So I got to plan when I'm going to get in the water. I got to plan that. Okay, well, let's dive in today. Thank y'all so much for being vulnerable and sharing about puzzles and introvert versus extrovert and bodies of water. I appreciate y'all showing up there. All right, we are diving in. So be open, let the new stuff in. Number 2, be honest. This one's important today because I'm gonna challenge y'all in a way that I haven't in the last 2 sessions. So it really does not, don't worry, nobody here, unless y'all are related, right, or best friends, nobody here knows the truth. But at least be honest with yourself, right? Because today is not going to help you to lie to yourself or to lie to us, right? Assume the best. No one woke up this morning and said, I hope that I get there and I spend some time offending people. Assume the best, right? Share the air. We're going to have time today to share stories. And I really want us to be mindful of the time that we're using to share. All right. Okay. Today is not a presentation. It is a workshop. 80% of today is going to be you all doing the work. 20% of it is going to be me helping you through that work, right? So I know in the last 2 weeks, you've heard a lot from me and you're probably tired of hearing my voice. But I will tell you today, you won't hear very much from me because I really want to give you time and space to do the work. All right. I think you already have something to write with or to write on. And so you are ready to dive in. Last time, this is your one doggy bag. Every time I've been with you, I've given you stuff for your doggy bag. This is the one thing going in your doggy bag today. You have to know this because you're going to get to a place where you're going to say, Kim told me, right? Oh my goodness, it's not working. Kim told me X, Y, and Z. In stressful times, and when I mean stress, I mean big stress, like September the 11th. I mean little stress, like I'm hungry, right? Right? I'm hungry and I've been waiting in this line to get food for 15 minutes, right? So in stressful times, whatever has been programmed is what will come out. When your defenses are down, whatever has been programmed is what will come out, unless you have a plan. Now, is this 100% foolproof? No. Because if you're in a situation where, you know, I tend to be someone who takes in the energy around me. And just a couple weekends ago, a car pulled out in front of me and I had to slam on brakes. And I literally was looking this man in his eyes. And I wanted, and you know, he put his hands up and said, like, I'm sorry, you know, and he drove off, and I tried to drive off, and I literally had to pull my car over into a parking lot and let myself cry because I almost took this man's life, right? Like, had my brakes given out, had it been two more seconds, I would have certainly killed this man, right? And I thought I could just go about my business, boom, 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 boom. And I needed to pull over, and I needed to like go through all of that, right? And that's a highly stressful situation. That's something that's not gonna work with our plan today. But I'm talking about normal stresses, normal day-to-day interactions. I'm not talking about those extreme circumstances. But please know that in stressful times, again, you haven't had any sleep, you are sleep deprived, your kids have been getting on your nerves, right? You're in conflict with your partner or your spouse or your significant other. Your family is dealing with COVID stresses. In stressful times, what has been programmed in us is what will come out unless we have a plan. And today is about nailing down that plan. All right, here we go. So we are ready. We're diving in. We're diving in right now. This is the way that we are going to bypass, because all of us carry bias, right? We talked about that and those microaggressions, right? We talked about those microaggressions. All of us, because there is inner bias, we tend to come out on the outside with microaggressions, right? Here's how you bypass that. Here's how I'm gonna walk you through right now. You've got a pen, you've got a paper, and I'm actually gonna do it with you so that whatever I come up with is fresh. So first thing I want you to do, there are 100 different things 100 different ways you can answer this question. I only want you to give me 2, okay? I want you to name 2 layers of your identity. This could be race, religion, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, ableism, age, any of these things. So for me, I'm gonna write down disabled, and I'm gonna write down Black. That's 2 layers of my identity, Black or African American. Okay. I'm gonna give you a second to think, because I know you have so many identities. I'll give you a second to think and to choose a layer of your identity. 2 layers, 2 layers. This could be your gender, socioeconomic status. Let's give you a second to choose 2 layers there. All right. Okay, hopefully you've got 2 layers there. This could be you're a parent. I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a sibling. I am white, I am Black, I am Asian, I'm Latinx, I'm multiracial, I'm biracial, I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I am atheist, I am any of these things, right? 2 layers of your identity. We got that. Now I want you, and I'm guiding you through this. I'm doing it at the exact same time. I want you to name one other. If your identity is the norm, right? I'm going to pretend that being disabled is the norm. What is the other category? What is one other category that's opposite of the category I'm a part of? So when I write disabled here, I'm going to put next to disabled, able-bodied, able-bodied. That is the opposite for me. As a Black person, I could put white here, I could put Asian, I could put Latinx, I could put, what am I missing? I could put South Asian, I could put anything here that's not Black, but is race, right? So I'm gonna choose to put Asian. All right. And if I'm going too fast, please just drop into the chat or unmute and say, Kim, can you slow down? Okay, so you've identified who you are, 2 layers of your identity. And then you've taken a moment to think, who are the people that belong to the other if my identity is the norm? All right. Now I'm going to go back a few slides here. And I want you to look at number 2 here, because this is where I'm going to ask you to be honest. And this is where, whenever I do this workshop, this is where people struggle the most. All right. So I'm just going to remind you, today's workshop is about you. This is not, you're not doing this work for me. You're not doing it for Chuck and Ovan. You're doing this for you. All right. So I'm going to ask you to be honest. I cannot see your paper from here, I promise. I do wear glasses, but they don't work that well, okay? All right, so I want to ask you, based on your family of origin and your upbringing, what were the hidden messages? And I'm gonna start with, I'm looking at my paper here, and it's about people who are able-bodied. What were the hidden messages about people who are able-bodied? That's because that is my first category. Now, if you are sitting here and you're saying to yourself, my family never taught me any messages about any group, I'm going to disagree with you, right? Because here's how we teach. When we are parents, here's how we teach. We either teach through words, right? Direct instruction, or we teach through modeling. You can have a conversation with a child without saying a word. So your families did teach you, but sometimes, and I'm included in this sometimes, we need to protect the identity of our families and the reputation of our families. So we're not ready to say that our families taught us anything negative about any group. Oh, my family was Kim, my family wasn't racist at all. My family was multiracial and I lived in a diverse community. I never had any thoughts about anybody that were negative, right? Because our families were so great. And I get that. We need to protect the reputation of our families. Our families are dear to us, are precious. So if you're not ready to talk about your family, all of us have been exposed to media. Even if you grew up in a house where your family said, no TV, we will never watch a television, we'll never purchase one, you never saw a commercial in your life. You drove in a car past some billboards. If you didn't ride in a car, you rode in a train or a bus and you passed billboards, right? You went into your doctor's office for an appointment or for something and you saw posters on their wall. You saw books on their table, right? So we all have hidden messages about every single group, right? Even if the message is that group is invisible, that group does not exist, right? So I want you to write down 3 things about each of your other group that you name. Like for me, it would be able-bodied people and Asian people. I want you to write 3 messages. So I'm going to stop talking to give you time to think about that. What are 3 messages about each of those groups that you chose that you have learned, you've taken in because of your family, if you're ready to admit that, or because of the media around you, right? I'm going to mute myself for a second. Anybody need a couple extra minutes or another minute or so? I'll just check the chat in case I don't want to, I want us to all be together here. While you're thinking and you're writing, I'm going to share with you a disclaimer that I gave a group last year when I led this workshop. I want you to know that in the safety of this space, and I think that the team here will agree that this is a safe space. There is nothing that you're going to say or that you're going to write that is going to offend me. There is nothing that you're going to ask that is off limits, right? I want you to be as raw and as honest as you possibly can, because that's how we're going to be able to bypass that system, right? But if you're telling me what you think I want to hear, and listen, I have no investment in what you all write. I have heard the absolute worst, right? I've had people say to me, you know, Kim, my parents wouldn't let Black people in our house. And that did not offend me. That was their family's truth. That was where their family was. Like, listen, today is about being honest. So please don't filter. Do not filter what you are writing. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't think, oh, if I say this, Kim's going to judge me as racist or sexist or homophobic or, you know, a xenophobic. No, today is about me helping you to do the work. All right. So as someone who lives, first of all, you have to know that if you saw me on a normal day, you would not see me as disabled. Most people do not see me as disabled, right? So when I think about able-bodied people, I wrote down 3 things, just like I asked you to. Number 1, they are rude. Where does that word come from? From me watching people go into a building and not hold the door for the person that's in the wheelchair behind them, right? So that's where that comes from. Number 2, they are unaware, completely unaware. Where does that come from? From me watching people get on trains, get on the metro in DC and see the person with, well, in my eyes, I see the person with the stick that says I'm blind and the person in front of them just like oblivious. So just get on the metro and stand right there, not scoot to the side for the person or, you know. So, and then number 3, they have it so easy. Where does that come from? It comes from planning my entire life around my disability every day and watching people say things to me like, Kim, we should walk to this restaurant, or Kim, we should go hiking, or Kim, we should go here, there. And I'm like, the fact that you invited me and didn't think that maybe I couldn't do that, and maybe I shouldn't do that, says that you never have to think about this. You have it so easy, right? As someone who grew up with stories about Asian people, number 1, they are smart just by birth. They were born smart. That's the message that I received growing up. They were just born smart, right? Number 2, they're passive and subservient. So if someone crosses them the wrong way, they're not going to speak up for themselves, right? Number 3, depending on where in Asia the person that identifies as Asian is from, I mean, they smell. And I'm giving y'all just raw, I'm trying to model that raw truth. I'm not here to offend anyone. I'm here to tell you, here's the messaging that I received growing up. Here is the messaging, right? Now, you might be asking, why are we doing this? This feels bad, this feels wrong, this feels fill in the blank with the negative emotion, right? Here's why we're doing this. When you commit a microaggression, right? It's because of these messages that you have received. Whether it's a microaggression that's noticed or not, it's because of the messaging you have received. And remember, when you're not your best self, that's not today in the DEI workshop, that's when you're hungry and you need food, you're sleepy, you're sleep deprived, right? You've worked a 14-hour day. There's conflict in your family, right? Someone just told me yesterday that their mother-in-law is now bedridden, right? You are stressed out. When you are stressed, all that DEI foofy stuff goes out the window. And the stuff that's buried inside of us comes out. But if we don't examine what's in there, we don't examine, it will keep coming out over and over and over again. So it's important for us to dig in and to uncover these messages. And the only reason I only asked you for 3 messages is because we don't have time to do the 100 messages that you have. Okay, so, okay, you've got the messaging. You know what the messaging is. There is only one way to undo that messaging. There's only one way, right? When it comes to like swimming, no matter how great your fear is of the water, the only way to overcome it is to get in the water, right? Like that, there's no like, nobody's gonna give you a shot at the doctor's office for this, right? And so you've got to have a plan A. And you can call this goals, you can call this plan A, whatever you want to call it. Here's what I mean. Here's a great example. I was on a train in, was it DC? It might have been Boston. One of the cities I've been to. And the doors, and it said doors closing. And as the doors were closing, 2 women cover, I want to say burqa, cover from head to toe from the Muslim faith, were running towards the train. Did I say anything? No. Did I say, hurry up and close the doors? No, but I got a stomach ache watching them run towards the train. Why did I get a stomach ache? They didn't know I got a stomach ache. They weren't offended by my stomach ache, but I knew that my body had a visceral reaction to them rushing towards the train. They were covered from head to toe. All you could see was their eyes. The hidden messages deep inside me, right? And I was on the University of Maryland's campus when September the 11th happened, was that anyone who belongs to the Muslim faith is willing to give up their life, right? To cause or to commit an act of terrorism. That was the messaging that we all received. That was the messaging that we all received, right? And so here we are, 20 years later, and I'm on a train in Boston with a stomach ache, watching these 2 women run towards the train. Those are those hidden messages that are inside us all, right? So you've got to create a plan of action to counteract the messaging that you have received. And I want to take you a step further for those of us on the call that feel like we are advanced, right? I'll give you another example. I am African-American, I am Black. Growing up, most television was white, right? So here I am in brown skin, but I've been trained and conditioned my whole life that good television is white, right? High budget is white. Good graphics is white. All the people that win the awards at the Emmys and the Grammys and the this and the that are white. So good television, good movies are filled with white people. That's the messaging, even though I'm Black. So when Black Panther came out and everybody said, oh, you should go see it, it's gonna be great, you should go see it, I had to be convinced to go see Black Panther. Somebody said the whole cast is Black, this is gonna be awesome. The messaging that I had received was all Black cast equals low budget, violence, drugs, prostitution, gangs. And so I said, I hadn't even watched the trailer. I said, I don't think I want to see it. And my family was like, come on, Kim, come on. And of course I was convinced to go see it. And it was amazing. It was amazing. But the fact that I had to be convinced said that there was some messaging there. And so when you have some time, or when you make time, I want you to investigate and interrogate what is the messaging that you've received about the groups that you do belong to, the groups that you do belong to, right? So let's move forward with plan A. The only way that you can do this, and so my partner was so offended that I did not want to go see Black Panther that we went on vacation, or we took off a few weeks of work, and they said, Kim, we are only, if we're going to turn on the television, we're only doing Black television. Y'all, I was like, wait, what? You mean to tell me we can't watch the Real Housewives of, wait, when you say all Black, you mean ugh, you're gonna tell me that I can't watch This Is Us? They got two people in the, nope. We're watching all black. And let me tell you, the first 2 days was a struggle. I was like, I need to get, wait a minute. I need my bachelorette. Come on, you're not gonna let me watch Married at First Sight? So listen, I was struggling, y'all. I was struggling. But that's because I had been conditioned, right? So she said, listen, aggressive plan, Kim, only Black television. So you've got to turn that knob on the stove all the way up to expose yourself intentionally. You've got to go out of your way to expose yourself to the truth about those groups. Because you know who's telling the truth about those groups? Those groups. Not people who don't belong to the group and making movies about the group, or people who don't belong to the group and writing books about the group. You've got to go to the source, right? And here's a great example. I spent a whole summer teaching ESL courses, and I sat down with Asian kids and I said, you know, my family thinks, I was willing to be honest, my family thinks that y'all are born smart. Is that true? And they started laughing. They said, everybody thinks that. So if we have a bad day in a class, there's no mercy for us because people think we should be smart and we should get it just like this. They said, and these are kids from China. They said, it's not that we're smart, it's that the things that we are taught to master the art of memorization. So we are really good at memorizing things, which means when we show up for standardized testing, exams, what do you call it? Physical exams. We've memorized the strategy that's going to get us to the finish line in a way that demonstrates excellence. We are masters of memorization. Doesn't mean that we are born smart. And I remember thinking like, wow. So your plan has got to be, I've got to go out of my way to expose myself to authentic material from this group, That means going and sitting in that restaurant owned by that group. That means going out of your way to go to the library on the other side of town. That means when you go on your vacations and you go on like Sandals Resort, you've got to go out of your way and interact with locals, right? So that you get the truth, that you're not buying into the stereotypes that we are sold, right? How about the stereotype that all Asians know karate? Come on, we all grew up with those movies, right? Like, so how do you counteract those messages that you have received? You've got to go out of your way to look for proof that they are false. Now, you're going to say, but Kim, sometimes it's true. And you're right, sometimes it's true. Not because the stereotype is true, but because anything is possible, right? Is it possible that a kid was born a genius? Yes. Is it correct to say that all Asian babies are born intelligent? No, it is not, right? So I want to take a step back and I want to give you some time in breakout rooms to share. I want to give you 5 minutes by yourself. And this time I want you to turn your camera off, or, I'll put on some thinking music up here, some jazz. And I want you to figure out what your plan is. Is that 2 weeks with only Black television? Is that 2 weeks of only shopping at bookstores that are owned by people of color? Is that 2 weeks of following what is happening in government legislation where people who are living with disabilities is concerned? Is that 2 weeks of diving into Chinatown in DC and figuring out why there's almost like a ghetto in Chinatown, right? Like figuring out how the cities and the towns have been redlined in the DMV. What does that look like for you to combat the messaging that you received? If you believe that there are no Indigenous people in your community, why is that? Look it up, right? What does that plan look like? So I'm going to put on some thinking music here for 5 minutes. And then I want you to be prepared to share the steps that you went through with your colleagues and with me in breakout rooms. Just like I shared my answers here with you. And what is your plan? What's your plan? And before we leave, I'm going to give you plan B for those moments where you show up and you're hungry and your plan A doesn't work, or you're tired, you're sleep deprived, or there's conflict in your family, or you're dealing with a health crisis. I'm going to give you a plan B to take with you as well. So 5 minutes to think, and then we're going to go to breakout rooms. Okay. I'm going to put on some thinking music up here. Hopefully you can hear it. right, friends. Okay, we are back. We are back. And I'm gonna start my video here. Okay, so we are back, and what we're gonna do is take a moment to go into breakout rooms to share what is the layer of our identity. Let's go back to that slide. I'm sorry. What's the layer of our identity, right? Who are the others? What were the hidden messages? And then what's our plan, right? And then another, if you're still thinking like, well, I don't understand what a plan could be. You know, if you've got a kid who's recently come out to you as gay or trans or somewhere in the rainbow community, just going to the PFLAG website is a plan, and being willing to look over the PFLAG website, right? That's a plan. Because anything you can do to contradict the messaging that you've received or the programming is a plan. Yes? Yes. Okay. I think somebody, maybe Sean, maybe someone's going to send us to breakout rooms, right? I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, my group got cut off. I'm gonna blame Ovan for that.
We needed more time.
No, Ovan was with me and we got cut off
blaming Ovan for
too.
that.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
defend Ovan.
I blame
my
Chuck.
goodness. I gotta give a shout out to my group. I'm so sorry that we got cut off. I love y'all so much, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with me. My goodness. So we are back, and we've got 7.5 minutes, and I want to give airtime for this is what came up for me. This is what I will give you some feedback that I gave to somebody in my group. When you are thinking about, well, for example, I said Black people because I am Black. It's not enough for me to say that other is everyone who's not Black, right? I want you to be specific because, and I shared in my group, the messages that I received about Asians being born smart, I never received that messaging about Latinx folks, right? So you've got to be specific because the messaging that you received about every group, and it's different. There's different messaging that I received about Latinx men, excuse me, versus Latinx women, right? So, and don't even ask me about LGBTQIA plus Latinx folks. They don't even exist, right? That's the messaging that I got about that. So, so I want to hear what came up for you. I want to hear what questions you have. I'm going to put my last slide up so that I've got to give you your plan B too. We'll do that in about 3 minutes. Don't worry, I will give you your plan B. I will. All right, I am listening, I promise. Okay. In case I'll leave my email here while you're talking. Anybody want to share what came up or a question that's burning?
I just, I thank you, Nicole and Chuck. That was great. I feel bad because Chuck went last until he got cut off. But it was nice to hear how much we already knew these things, kind of, right? And had a concept of it, understood where the hidden messages were from, and it seemed like we had a plan, or we were already going forth with it. So that was nice to hear, although all of ours were different, because we're all different.
Right.
And it was just a nice chance to share with others.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I'll go. This is Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
We talked about immersing or unimmersing yourself, depending on what the exposure was.
Mhm.
And, either exposing yourself to situations that you're not familiar with, or that everybody else there may be different than you, or in some situations where you are either media blasted, or, you are constantly exposed to a group and you feel like maybe that's not the perspective you want to have. And so unplugging from those sources, or choosing not to go to those types of restaurants or bars, or plug into those media things, sometimes unplugging rather than immersing yourself, to regain your perspective, to get yourself centered, and to try and sort through all the noise to get to a place where you can form your own opinions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I recently listened to an audiobook that was narrated by someone of Asian descent. And it was difficult to listen to the accent that they spoke with. And I forced myself to listen to the book, because that bias came up for me. Oh, I'm uncomfortable listening to this, and I need to get more comfortable with it. And so I forced myself to listen to that audiobook. I love what you just shared. We got one more minute. Anybody else want to share out or ask a question before we go to Plan B? All right, let's go to Plan B. And why do you need a Plan B? You need a Plan B for those moments where right now we're in this calm setting in this Zoom room, right? And we've got masterful plans. But when we show up and there's conflict, we show up and we're hungry, right? We show up and we're tired or exhausted and sleep deprived. The messages that have been drilled into us is what comes out. And so you need a Plan B for those moments. And here's what I will share with you. I'm going to go back a few slides. Here's your Plan B. I've got to move my Zoom boxes so I can't see. Okay. Step one. And this is like not a pretty acronym. I call it TOAD without the T. ODE. Step one is to own it. Step one is to own it. And when I say own it, I mean out loud, right? So for example, I think I shared with you all where I was teaching that ESL lesson years ago, and I made the kids who didn't have siblings feel bad for not having siblings. You've got to own that, right? Like to stop and say, wow, I literally just created bias against people who don't have siblings. That was wrong, right? Own that, own it. Step two, apologize. This sounds simple, but as adults, right? We get stuck and it's like we don't know how to do that anymore. I don't know what happens to us when we cross over the adult threshold, right? Kindergartners are like, oh, sorry. Adults are like, I didn't do anything. What is there to apologize? So apologize and commit to doing better. Wow, I'm so sorry, Ovan, that I made you feel bad about not having siblings. That's my own like big family bias. And I promise to do better. I clearly need to be doing some work, and I promise to do better. I'm committed to doing that work. Now, this one is the hard one. When we hurt someone, especially someone we're close to, we sit with guilt. We feel guilt, right? And y'all got to know, I came out here to a very, very white city when the world was on fire because George Floyd was killed. So a lot of people were walking around carrying guilt, and that guilt was how they interacted with me. I went to the store to get some yogurt. Somebody reached for the yogurt at the same time. They're like, no, I want you to have this yogurt. I was like, listen, there are 15 of these things on the shelf. You can take this yogurt, okay? So that last piece of advice is just don't circle back. If you need to circle back, if you need to circle back because the person wants to engage in conversation about it, yes, circle back. If you need to circle back because you're feeling guilty, then you need to go to your priest or your counselor or your neighbor or your best friend. You need to be like, I really messed up with Ovan. I made him feel awful because he doesn't have some. Why would I do that? I don't even know why I would do that. Don't go back to Ovan and do that, right? Don't go back to him and say like, I'm sorry. Okay, I just need to tell you, I really did not mean to make you feel bad about not having siblings. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. Don't do that. Own it, apologize and don't circle back unless that person wants to re-engage about it. Does that make sense? That's your plan B. That's for when you show up hungry. All right, I see a hand and I know I'm out of time, but I'm gonna turn it over to Ovan, and I'll listen to any last minute comments. I'm gonna put my email up again. All right, I'm passing it back over to you, Ovan, to Chuck and to Sean, to you all over there with the team.
All right, can we all give Kimberlee another round of applause for amazing 3 weeks worth of information. Thank you so much. We all enjoyed the seminar, and thank you all again for attending. The session evaluations will be sent out very shortly, and we'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to ask everyone to fill out it in its entirety. For those seeking CEUs, you'll need to fill out the information by Friday at 5 p.m. And when you do, you will see a question at the end where you can enter your contact information and send you the CEU code. So thanks again, and be sure to follow up on social media and visit mrpa.org to sign up for any of our upcoming trainings and PLCs. Kimberlee, you're a rock star. All right, I'm gonna stop recording now. If anybody wanted to ask anything else, go ahead. I'll stop recording now.